we used to say, they say, many are mad, few are roaming. So the truth of the matter is many people are not even aware that they have mental health challenge. And so there are some signs that that you begin to take note to know that you need to seek help. So for instance, when all of a sudden you become irritable.
Welcome to another exciting episode of your favorite show, Gist HQ. Here we bring you exciting gist from across Africa and a lot more. Fasten your seatbelts, guys. It's going to be a wonderful ride. Welcome back, everyone. So today we are going to be discussing about mental health in our society. The term mental health has become a popular lingua in our society, especially with social media giving individuals a platform to rant and vent. While organizations and families have been made to pay attention to the mental well-being of their individuals, how can we ensure that this term mental health is not abused? To discuss about this with me today, I have Dr. Ogenefego Ofili, who is a media entrepreneur. It is so wonderful to have you on the show again.
Thank you for having me.
And I have Mr. Felix Ogweze. He is a life coach. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to start with you, Mr. Felix. What does the term mental health really mean?
Well, the term mental health simply means in the layman language is how we feel and how we think and handle our daily ups and downs. So it's about your thinking, it's about your feeling, and how we handle the daily ups or downs, maybe at the workspace, in the home front, how we interpret the reality, the perspectives we take and we see as regard these events.
So if I understand you properly, you say it is how we feel at a particular time. Okay, so Dr. Fego, what does mental health entail to you?
Okay, I'm not an expert, so the expert has defined it, but based on what I've read and I understand, so it's really about um, a person's emotional health, right? It's connected to your emotions and feelings and how healthy you are in that regard. Most times, when we talk about illness or ill health, people think about malaria, typhoid. So we think about physical things that we can see, we can feel. But nowadays, we now talk about mental health because the things that we need to also pay attention to issues that affect us as human beings that are not really seen but are felt. So how do you? Yeah, basically.
Okay. So, Mr. Felix, do you think in our world right now, in our society, the term mental health is not abused? Because nowadays, people are telling you, I've stopped this because of my mental health. I am not relating with people because of my mental health. You can't even understand what they are talking about. So, do you think it has been abused or it is overemphasized?
Okay, thank you again. You see, the truth of the matter is that when people are exposed to a new term and it's trending, of course, everybody wants to be part of it. I remember there was a word that was, in fact, when they Googled it, it was the highest Googled word, gaslighting.
Oh,
There was a word that it was trending. So for me, I'm not surprised that this is trending. But the truth is that the question is, are there really mental health issues? The truth is that there are mental health issues. And the truth is that your environment affects your psychology. Your psychology affects your environment. So when you see in this part of the world where there's so much tension in the environment, especially during this the campaign towards the election, and if most of you were online, it was very toxic. That's the truth. So I want to establish that. Then the question is if it has been abused. Of course, every word, anything can be abused. Even just as people abuse medicine, people abuse anything. So when people feel that at times some people want to use that to avoid responsibility, avoid it, they abuse it. So for instance now, we all go through stress. So for you to do your work, see, for us to have this conversation here, there's an element of stress that we're
You have to go
deploying.
through.
You have to go through, which is normal. So there's a point where it gets beyond the threshold that becomes an issue. So now, if now you have a goal, you have a task, you have a workload, and you are supposed to deliver, and you're not delivering on the goal and on the ground on the guys that, oh, my mental health, then something is wrong somewhere. In some organizations, they have webinars. They even have in-house life coaches who come once in a while and engage. So the question of you just going to, like, for instance, you go and see a medical doctor and you say, oh, that you are feeling that you're sick. If you meet a medical doctor, you cannot hide it. In the question of that, you know that you are feeling your this. So it's important that we create an environment where people can be real, people can meet their target, and people can be sincere. Because if you keep hiding under the guise because of the time, and this generation, because of the social media, any little thing you can just go and you can be trending, and everybody wants to trend. So, so it's important that we create a balance and let people know that, see, there's a gulf, and when we begin to abuse this word, at the end of the day, even people who may be experiencing the real mental health challenge, you may jeopardize the opportunity of seeking help, because before you know it, it just becomes a tagline, and we may miss the essence.
That's true. So, Dr. Fego, do you think it has been overemphasized?
I don't think so. Um, like I said when we were having a conversation earlier, the term mental health has been there for a long time, but it just came into limelight, and everybody wants to be part of that trend,
Yes.
according to what Mr. Felix has said. But the truth is, our parents, generations before us, have experienced what we're calling the mental health issues, but might not have had a good term to describe it.
Exactly.
So I don't think it's been overemphasized. It's just that there's this thin line between abusing it and using it in the right time. Okay, and I don't even know if some of these people who use this mental health actually understand what mental health really is. What are the signs? What are the symptoms? Things that make us know that somebody's having a mental health challenge
Yes.
or issue.
Yes.
So, Mr. Felix, what signs does an individual show that requires mental health attention?
Great. That's a fantastic question. And there are signs, and one of the signs that we look out for is when you notice the person all of a sudden becomes overwhelmed. So you see cases where the person breaks down emotionally, begins to cry, begins to throw tantrums. These are signs that all is not well. And this is, you're looking at somebody that was not like this before. And all of a sudden, he's throwing tantrums, any little things, she's crying or he's crying. You need to check, maybe this person is overwhelmed. So these are pointer. Secondly, somebody is laid back in his work. So the things he normally do, this person, you give him tasks, he will deliver on the tasks. All of a sudden, he's becoming laid back. And you begin to wonder, how is this person start meeting deadlines again? These are pointers. Another thing we should also look at is somebody that used to be a team player, plays with it. Is when it comes to tasks, working with the team, it's fantastic. All of a sudden, the person all of a sudden begins to isolate, keeps to himself, keeps to herself, he's not talking to anybody, and you begin to wonder, he's not relating with the team. So these are some of the signs we may just look at. Once you begin to notice this sign, then just look at the workload. It's not delivering on the work anymore. You give this person a target, it's not meeting the target. You understand? The person that used to come very early to work doesn't come early to work. You also notice even from the eyes, maybe the person has bulge eyes, indicating that this person is not sleeping well. You may have cases where somebody is oversleeping. So you begin to notice some of those things, and when you notice those things, you begin to notice something is fundamentally wrong, because this is not how this person used to be.
Really? Okay, so in a situation where this person has always been like this, since you knew the person, has been overwhelmed, oversleeping, always withdrawn, can you say that that person has an issue, or the person is just naturally like that?
So that kind of thing, it's important that we interrogate that issue. So because I believe before the person was given the job, there were some things they saw. There were even times before the person had to go to probation. So I'm sure if the person was behaving like this had been issue, I'm sure they would have asked him to go. So if the organization retained him, that means it wasn't like that. But if there's something all of a sudden this person has been like this for a while, they will need to probe and find out what's happened. And that's why we always encourage managers to be flexible. Create an environment, a working space where people can be open, where people can be vulnerable. So he or she can walk up to the manager and he can explain. But if this person is not saying anything, the manager who has been observing can engage and find out what is really happening. So once the manager is able to able to ask questions and is able to even recommend something, maybe ask him to or her to seek help. And maybe after seeking that help and we're still seeing this person is laid back, then we need to review other things.
Okay, that's nice. All right, so we'll go on a break, and then when we come back, we're going to fully dissect this topic. Stay with me. So, welcome back, everyone. We're still discussing about the topic mental health. So, Mr. Felix, how does an individual realize that they need help mentally? Because some people don't know that they need to go for therapy or pay more attention to their mental health. They just think everything is normal and they're going to come out of it. So, how do they realize that they need that?
Yeah, that's a very great question. And truly, that is the real issue. That is the real issue because many people are not aware. I know there's this misunderstanding out there is when you begin to talk to yourself on the road, that's when you have a mental health issue. But the truth is that it doesn't have to get to that point, And like we used to say, they say, many are mad, few are roaming. So the truth of the matter is many people are not even aware that they have mental health challenge. And so there are some signs that that you begin to take note to know that you need to seek help. So for instance, when all of a sudden you become irritable, easily get irritated. People say things, you are triggered. People touch your thing, you are triggered. Sorry, man. So, or somebody says certain things, or maybe there's a joke. If you are all in social media, you see somebody drop something, and you see how people will react or respond.
Yes.
These are pointers that all is not right.
I know.
All is not right. So you see, you begin to wonder. I'm sorry to use the word in Yoruba, say, kilagbe kilaju. So what did we say that you have to react this way? So if once you begin to see that you are very reactive instead of being responsive, so there's a discussion, and I saw a lot of it during this election period. In fact, it was almost becoming a trigger for me because when I saw how people were reacting,
That's when it came out.
these are pointers that people are not paying attention to their mental health. So that is one about being irritable. Another thing is that when you begin to all of a sudden you begin to feel, like I mentioned before, you begin to feel overwhelmed. You feel overwhelmed by work, and you're complaining about your work, you're complaining about family, you're complaining about church, you're complaining about everything. Everything feels as if you're feeling choked. You're feeling choked as if you cannot breathe. These are pointed as something you need to seek help. You understand? Then you're a type where you are not aware. At times your emotion. So you look at little things get you on the edge. You're easily angry. You get frustrated easily. You throw tantrums. Like somebody's walking and you just jump, go boom. Or when you're angry, you're banging on the table. Bah, 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 bah. These are pointers that all is not well inside.
From what you have just said, it's like I don't know if there are enough mental health experts or psychologists or therapists in Nigeria because it's like the whole country.
It's not okay.
We actually there's a crisis.
There is. I agree with
There's
you.
a big crisis
I agree
from
with you.
from what
I
you
agree
just
with you.
described,
I
and
agree
it's
with
something
you.
that we need to pay attention to. So I don't know where the pressure is coming from, or whether we're not. Is it a case of we're not allowing people to be able to freely express their emotions at home, that they now bottle things up. We're used to, to get better. This whole slang, it is well, to get better, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Those are some things over time that we've been saying to ourselves that we keep bottling things up. And at some point, somebody just does something, like you said, that triggers whatever, and the whole kind of room is opened up, right? So it's actually a big crisis. If that is a description of science of the mental health issue, it's a big crisis, and that we need to pay attention to as a nation, actually, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay. In adding to what you say, at the beginning of this conversation, I said something that we are psychosocial beings. So what does that mean? Where we both have our psychology and our sociology. Our psychology is our mind. Our sociology is our environment. So if you look at the environment, except we're living in denial, the environment has been tensed. So when you're talking of economic hardship, you look at the Japan syndrome.
Yeah.
The question is, you think everybody that had to embrace that relocation wanted to relocate?
No.
The tension in the environment, the insecurity, all those things affect mental health. There are some environments, just this insecurity, kidnapping, is enough for them to have a session. So how many people are having a session?
Yeah.
So the worst part is that there's a lot of accumulation. So when you are having this mental overload, it's a question of time before you begin to react. And people, like you rightly said, our parents didn't have space where they could express themselves. So people feel like in the name of trying, because that's what we call, one of the ways to help you manage your emotion is journaling. But some people, the social media is an opportunity to pour out their mind. So some of them, people are just saying things the way they are feeling. And some are they're just venting. And so if you're not careful, and these things, when we vent, it's an energy.
Yeah.
So an energy is contagious. Yeah. So when you release certain energy, people embrace that same energy and begin to react. Yes. And that's why you begin to see this thing just begin to trend. And there are some topics that you begin to trend and you begin to wonder, why is this thing trending?
Yeah.
Because of the energy involved. So once we begin to understand and appreciate this, and like you rightly said, a lot of us need help.
Yeah.
And the truth is that many people are not aware. As far as they're concerned, I'm very okay. So when I see, because one of the things that the nature of our work, what it does for us is that there are times we just sit down and we're just observing. Yeah. And as we're observing, we're taking notes. And honestly, this last election period showed that many people need help.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how can organizations and families ensure that the individuals in that space are catered for mentally? How can they ensure that that space is giving off good mental vibes?
Well, the individual involved too is also involved in this experience, because now, so if individual could be a husband, could be a wife. When we have such a scenario, we understand that, husband and wife, or whatever the case may be, need to discuss. So for instance, one of the things that drains is maybe you are in a family and you have children. You need to cater for those children. For instance, I know one of the things that affect a lot of parents is when it's the time of school fees.
Yeah.
It affects a lot of parents, mentally, especially when the schools are putting pressure. There are some schools, as you are resuming, you must have paid your school fees. So when you have that kind of, you find yourself in that kind of environment, there's a tendency that this may affect your family life. It may also affect your work life. So it's important that at initial, you should understand your strength, understand what works. So for me, there are schools that are flexible. I'm just using as a case study. So schools that maybe they give maybe a notice of 1 month after resumption. So you must be intentional about how to protect your mental health. There are issues about maybe food stuff, all those things like the popular ones where people are talking about the prices of food stuff, and this may affect the finance. And we know in marriage, in the home front, finance is very, very critical. So once the finance is not able to meet the needs or on the home front, of course it will affect the family. And once the family is affected, it will also affect that person's productivity. So the question is, what are the incentives also the office is also putting in place to help this person? What are the environment? For instance, if now the environment is not a friendly environment, maybe you have a leader that has a personality disorder, you have a leader that doesn't lacks communication. I mean, that can affect the mental health of that person. I remember many years ago, I don't want to mention the name of the company has folded up, where once you come into the office, once the chairman, CEO enters the office, everybody must stand up and put their hands in their back, on their back. And the day you don't do it, it's going to correct you. I've seen cases where people mentioned that the day he came in and somebody was taking a call, he took the phone and smashed it on the floor. So when you have that kind of environment, workspace, of course, definitely, that man has a mental health issue, but it's not aware. So when you have a leader, a manager that has issues like that, definitely it's going to create a toxic workspace, and that will affect the productivity. And most organizations don't know that. Say, if you want the best out of your staff, you must ensure that you are interested in their family. You're interested in how their daily life. So some organizations, they even arrange meetings or getaway or what's the word now? Retreat, where they can meet with the family, and so they can mix the whole thing, and they know that, oh, definitely at the home front you're doing well, and we know if you're doing well at the home front, you'll also do well at the workspace. So that's where I feel we need to create about.
So you said something about retreat. I just remembered this my office, right?
Okay.
We December, and we're like, okay, let's do a get together. So my people, I gave them option. And my people said we should share the money.
So people don't even value
So-
these things.
You're right.
So them it's a
So-
waste of time.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Especially to Nigerians.
Yes.
Waste of time.
Yes.
so I think even while we have the textbook
Mm.
things we can do to help people's mental health,
Mm.
we also need to, just like love languages, bringing it here. You need to understand what people really want,
Mm.
what they see as value for them, right? I thought a get together, all after working the whole year, we could just chill somewhere and whatever, and just have fun. We're like, I beg, that's money for hand, share the money, and let's. So maybe doing that, I don't know if it had helped them. If it helped their pocket health or mental health.
See, the truth of the matter is that we see this case you mentioned, it happens every day. We have seen cases where instead of people go on leave, they say they should convert that leave to money.
To money, yes.
It happens every day.
Yeah.
And see, the truth is that the fact that the word mental health is trending doesn't mean that we all know what mental health is. Because truly, if we know what mental health is, you will know that taking that vacation, taking time to recalibrate is very, very important.
Yeah.
It's more important than money, because if your mental health breaks down, we're talking of, if you look at some of the homes where people are admitted, you're spending nothing less than $500,000.
Yeah.
And it doesn't guarantee with that $500,000 that you will feel fully recovered.
Wow.
So that's why. So when and that's why I'm happy that you are having this kind of conversation, because we need to create awareness and people know that there's more to life than money. Because I know because of the environment we have found ourselves, the hardship in the environment, people have this belief. There's once people receive a lot, there's this feel good hormones that you get. So the fact that the money is increased, it releases that feel good, and that feel good hormone is just for a while. It's short. Unlike the one that is a long term. So if you don't understand this, you may just run into serious headache.
Okay, so let's go on a break, and then when we come back, we are going to be closing. Thank you. Okay, welcome back. We're still talking about mental health. So, when you were talking, Mr. Felix, you said that organizations should pay more attention to their staff by knowing what's happening in the family. Some people will abuse that.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Figo, what do you think about that?
Yeah, you see, for me now, I operate in a creative space. And I always tell my staff, you're a creative person, except you're an admin. If you're a creative person, you need rest. You cannot be creative and not be resting. right? So for us in the organization, we've paid attention over time, and then we have days off for our staff,
Fantastic.
right? Where we now work 4 days a week, most of the time, right? Some private organizations will not do that. They only, even public holidays, they don't pay attention to what we are private. It's the government paying, you know. We could do that too, but you find out that people give their best, and I read a lot. I read about the employee of this generation, how they behave and all that. So I try to pay attention to those kind of things in the way I handle my employees. So we have days off, and then I'm trying to reduce that part, the part where they are beginning to abuse it at some point. Where I've had staff who know that I'm very caring, I'm paying attention. I'll call you to a meeting. Why is your eye like that? Did you sleep well? What's happening? And I find out people are not sleeping, they don't have the house, you know, all those kind of information. I begin to hear them. And as someone who is quite emotional, or somebody who is in the Ministry of Health, so you're not adding to your own pressure. How can I solve this person's problem? And adding to my own. So at some point, for my mental health too, as an employer, I had to distance myself from some kind of information, right? Yeah. So there's now, like, for me, a balance between what I want to know and what I don't want to know. I don't want to hear how, in Lagos, all of us are in traffic. So how do you resolve your traffic problem and get to the office early? You are ill, okay, we have HMO. You know, there are things that I've tried to do in the organization to say resort the basic things that as a staff you need to keep your mental health okay and keep you creative and work very well. But the challenge I have, which as I mentioned earlier, Nigerians don't value rest. So even on your off day, I'm seeing your timeline, you are out. Either you are, I don't know where you are, Sha. But if that outing is where how you rest, fine. But some people, especially in this industry, right, in creative industry, that's when somebody has gone to take another job to go and do. So when do you actually have time to rest and recuperate and come back the next time you're coming to work with good energy, with vibes, creative vibes that we need in the organization? So in trying to pay attention to people's mental health as an employer, you also have Nigerians who are trying to be smart and sharp to now use that as an extra way of getting income, which I don't blame them for, because we're all trying to get better, right? So there's that balance. People need to balance it. When you have an off day, rest. It is for you to rest. When you have leave, rest. It's not for you to now take another walk and walk till the day you want to kill yourself. So speaking from the employer perspective, I'll pay attention to how my staff is doing. If somebody's output has dropped, if they're not looking as happy as I know they are, their interaction and all that, and I ask questions. But I've also tried to save myself a lot of emotional stress to not know too much and do what I can do for that person and then leave it. So I don't know if that.
Okay, so thank you very much. So we're rounding up. How can people seek for help? Are there channels that they can contact, or how do you think they can go about seeking for that mental help?
Great. That's a great question. For me, I'm a life coach, and I know that I'm available, and I've helped a lot of people. I've helped organizations. You know, just like what the answers Dr. Fego gave. You know, and some people you do, because if you're not careful, you have to also be careful not to also begin to carry people's burden, because that may affect you psychologically. So, so what we do is to help people develop coping skills. So once you understand those coping skills, you are able to navigate. Because you see, since there are sometimes we deploy coaching, and so coaching is such that we allow you to arrive at your own truth. So we're not advising, we're not pushing something down your throat. We get to that space where you know that this is very important to you. So there are places, like I said. I have my colleagues too who are also in this industry too, and this is where we go out there to help people. We go to organizations. People also bring people. We talk to them. We help them through the process. So there are a lot of people out there. It's just that there's a mindset out there. People feel, that if you're going to go and see somebody, a life coach, a therapist, you must be mad. It's crazy. So that mindset, we need to change that mind. It's wrong. It's wrong. Just like what you are healed in the body, you go and see a doctor. You know, your hair is due, you go and see a stylist. So the same thing with your emotion. See, it's not everything. You are not trained to understand what's happening inside. So somebody will help you unpack. There are questions, I'm telling you, by the time you begin to answer some of these questions, you begin to experience relief and you begin to wonder how you meet. So people don't know this, and only very few people. And again, there's this wrong mindset, and I want to correct again. People feel that that is only for the rich. It's for the top notch of society. It's wrong. You don't have to be rich to get there. So there are people out there, and thank God you have created a space. I'm offering my own services. So, and I have enough people, I have a team that we can help you resolve these issues. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you everyone for watching today's show. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to keep a date with me every week on this channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you get notified when I post a new video. Thank you very much to my amazing guests. I've learned so much from you guys today. So until I come your way again next week, bye.